Turkey remains a major US, European, NATO ally. That kind of security assistance and military aid is continuing, though we are seeing, challenges to that as people in these countries, demand more of their governments to stop supporting these kinds of regimes. And the policy of, either outright supporting or ignoring radical Islamist groups is also still continuing on the part of Turkey and the Western powers, because what we see when we look at the areas that Turkey has occupied, and this is also something that we can talk about that I've done some research on, is the Syrian National Army factions that Turkey supports are in many cases the remnants of other Western supported Syrian rebel groups that espouse an ideology and have a practical impact on women, on Kurds, on religious minorities like Yazidis and Assyrians and Armenians. International powers are now faced with the fact that the only people putting up any resistance against ISIS are, the revolutionary Kurdish movement that these states had all considered to be terrorists because they had also been resisting the Turkish government. And so that tactical alliance came about simply because of, the strength of the local resistance to ISIS, being the only strong local resistance to ISIS in the area at that time. They wrote a letter to President Trump where they said that not only explaining to Americans who might not have known that the Kurdish movement fought against ISIS, and also saying that they had seen, when Erdogan's security forces attacked protesters, Kurdish, Armenian, American protesters at Sheridan Circle, just blocks from the White House. And that, look, that was a very important contradiction for them to bring up there because, this is a group that's listed as a terrorist organization in the United States that's never targeted anyone in the United States, never even been anywhere near the United States. And then meanwhile, Turkey, the country that is the reason why they're listed, has attacked peaceful protesters in an American city, expressing their basic right to protest against a foreign leader. So I think that it's absurd when we have a group that legally does not meet the definition of a terrorist organization, that is fighting for self-determination for people, that is not targeted innocent civilians of foreign countries at all. And then when they're listed at the behest of an authoritarian government that does target civilians, that does commit acts of terrorism, assassinating politicians and activists across northern Syria, in Sinjar, in Mahmur, that's targeted its opponents in Europe even, that's, cracked down on all opposition domestically. When that kind of regime is telling us that this group is a terrorist organization, I think that the people of Western countries need to sit up and listen and realize that that's not right. They would change. And this is something that I advocate for myself. I believe that the PKK does not meet the legal definition of a terrorist organization and that it should be removed from the list. First of all, if you look at even United Nations documents from the 60s, 70s, 80s, through that era, there is a right under international law for peoples living under foreign occupation and, racist, authoritarian, nationalist regimes to resist occupation by all means necessary, including armed struggle. This is something that we saw during World War II when people in Europe took up arms to fight the Nazis. This is something that we saw in the aftermath of World War II with the decolonization movements across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So many states that exist today now owe their freedom from foreign rule, from fascist regimes, from colonial domination, to the fact that citizens of those states, when denied all other ways to gain their rights, took up arms and fought to gain their freedom. So this is an established principle in international law. I'm sure that, again, many of my Turkish and Kurdish listeners will know about the Belgian court case that found that the PKK was not a terrorist organization, but rather a party to a non-international armed conflict.